I remember years ago going to a leadership sales conference, and they had a guest speaker, and it was Tony Dungy, former head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. And he was talking about how he built a winning culture. How did he build a team that won a Super Bowl? And he said, up above on top of the locker room for all the men to see, had a phrase, and it said, expectations and execution, no excuses and no explanations. And if you break that down for a second, expectations and execution, which means things that are expected for you to do and then for you to do them, no excuses and no explanations, is a very powerful statement. It's just 4 E words that are put up on a screen or on a wall, but it's very powerful. And I think about those that are trying to be successful in building their business, the entrepreneurs, the salespeople, the business owners out there, those that have to fail many times in a row and get back up and be successful. And I want to talk to you today about skill power versus willpower. You see, we focus on skills a lot of times. Some of these skills include, I have to prospect people, prospect new customers. You do. I have to call people. I have to get on the phone and call people. You do. I have to do appointments and engage people in my services or my products so that I could sell them my goods or my services. And you do have to do these things. You have to know how to obtain new customers, and you have to know how to sell these customers. And there's a few other skills that I'm going to touch on right now, but in this video, I want you to be focusing that there are skills that you need to learn, but there's also willpower that you need to have. And I think as the generations have come closer and closer to today, present day, we have less and less willpower and more skills. The problem, though, is that we're not achieving that peak level of success because we don't have the willpower to see out our skills. You see, it's the skills that'll get you into business, but it's going to be the willpower that's going to carry you through to your success and your finish line. Way too many people start things today and they don't finish things. And you could attribute that to the household. You could attribute that to the education system. You could attribute that to the ability for an American to leave one job and start another job, or to cancel their friends on social media and find new friends, or leave a school and then add to a new school. Even in the college football system, you could play for a year for one program and enter the portal and then leave to another school. And so the ability for people to stay and have staying power and finish things is becoming less and less and less. So let's take a look at the skills that you're going to need to use. We talked about prospecting, calls, and appointments. We talked about the ability to sell or the ability to recruit as you build your teams or you build your businesses. You're also going to have problem-solving skills. You're going to have to deal with conflict management. You're also going to have building relationship skill sets. Like, how do I build relationships? Especially with dealing with people that you may not be used to dealing with, or you, quite frankly, don't even want to deal with. I reference Robert Greene's material a lot on human nature. And if you struggle with human nature, books like How to Win Friends and Influence People or anything that Robert Greene has written are really good books to learn how to deal with people. But you're going to have to be able to build these relationships. You're going to have to acquire knowledge. And that's going to have to be done by watching videos, reading books, and doing whatever you can to acquire knowledge. These are skills that you're going to need to have. And normally I would say reading and writing is an obvious, but because of the technology era today, I think fewer and fewer people actually know how to read an actual book and write with an actual pen or pencil. And I know these things are foreign to us sometimes, and yes, technology saves us a lot of time, and if you're very good at doing your abridged version of things, that's fine, but you're going to people are going to judge you by your ability to write on a piece of paper sometimes. And so I think these are skill sets that I would go out there and find, and speaking on stage, articulating your vision. You may know something that's on your mind, but you may struggle with getting it out of your mouth. I grew up very introverted, very shy. I didn't want to talk to people. I didn't want to be put in uncomfortable situations. I remember my palms getting sweaty, or not being able to take off my jacket because I sweat so much. I got so nervous. I didn't know what to say. I remember seeing somebody that's like, ooh, I like that person in high school, but I don't know how to approach that person. Or, oh, that person would be great for my business, but I'm scared to go talk to them. And these are all skills that we learn. And I would reference this book right here, Eric Worre, Go Pro. These are some of the skill sets that you're going to need to master in order to be a good team builder or be great in sales. But I want to talk to you for a moment about willpower. and having that willpower. And if willpower is a foreign concept to you, let me just explain what I mean by willpower. Doing it one more time. You know, I tried again, I tried, do it again. You look at students. When I remember being in school 20 years ago in college, and there was a desire for somebody to be an apprentice in a law firm so that one day they could be a partner in a law firm, or to be work in a hospital and you work next to a doctor and you do that for years before you're a doctor. Many of you are familiar with like the way somebody becomes a pilot and they have flight hours and they have to do this for a while before they could get in there. Or even when the great Aaron Rodgers played behind Brett Favre, he did that for a few years before he was the starting quarterback. And what I'm talking about, doing it one more time, it's not expecting instant success, and it's not measuring your results in the very beginning, but actually acquiring the experience. You see people get into business and they say, I did 3 client appointments and nobody bought anything. And I say, do 100 client appointments and don't measure your sales ratios until you've done it 100 times. What? Yes. Jason, I went up to 5 people and none of them said yes to my business or yes to coming on board with my company. Well, do it 100 times before you even measure your ratios. And too many people measure their success ratios without having the adequate experience. And so Bruce Lee said something to the effect that I don't fear the person that has 10 or 100 different kicks. I fear the person that has one kick that they've done it hundreds or thousands of times and they've perfected it. And there's a book called Mastery by Robert Greene that talks about having 10,000 hours of experience in something before you could call yourself a master. And so something else that you're going to have for willpower is turning negative situations into positive situations. We call a negative situation for a new trainee's position in their first couple years scenario of disaster. And scenario of disaster is when you are excited and you make a decision to go out there and do something great. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to build a team. I'm going to get into sales. You're excited. And that excitement around other people causes them to ask you questions. Then you attempt to answer these questions, but you realize that you're all just full of excitement and you don't really know how to talk about anything. And you end up answering something wrong and the result ends up being failure. And so it feels terrible because you thought everybody was going to match your level of excitement and say, wow, I see your excitement. Sounds great. When in reality, most people, it's not the right time. You show your excitement and they respond with this. And that gap right there is called a big old fat disappointment. And so you've got to be able to have perspective, which isn't easy to do in the beginning stages, but as you build your willpower, it starts becoming more and more natural to expect that not everybody's going to get excited about what you're excited about, or the timing isn't right, or they don't understand what you're saying. And so you've got to be able to show the willpower to turn that negative situation into a positive situation. Showing up every day, even though it hurts, or especially on the days that you don't want to. January and February, gyms are full of people that are trying to work out. Or when the sunshine is out and the weather's nice, the offices are full because the circumstances are perfect. But it's Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening and you've got temptation to leave. Can you stay at the office? It's Monday morning, Tuesday morning, it's cold outside. Can you get up early and go work out even though it's cold outside, or you don't feel good, or you're slightly sick, or you had a bad day? Those are the days that you really show your willpower. And I don't see it as much as I did 10, 20 years ago. And I want to encourage you guys to work on that willpower so that you could show up on the days that you feel good, and then you could show up on the days that you don't feel great. Handling a loss, especially if the loss is public and or humiliating for you. Losses are very tough to come by. One of the reasons that I watch for a long time of my life, I would watch the interviews after sporting events. And if you watch an interview after a sporting event, think about it. Men and women got up on national television for the Olympics or for basketball, football, baseball, whatever sport that you're watching. And they went out there to try to achieve peak performance against other people that were already ready to combat them in that sport. And then they lost, especially when they were supposed to win. It's humiliating. Everybody sees it. And then right after that loss, there's somebody with a recording device called a microphone, and they walk right up to them and they say, how do you feel knowing that you just lost? Or how do you feel knowing that you were supposed to win this game and this was one of your terrible games? And right in the moment, they've got to be able to answer those questions. Now, these are professional athletes, and they've practiced performing and then talking about that performance afterwards. But when you're new in business, or when you're new to a relationship, or when you're new to any endeavor that you're embarking in, you don't know how to process your emotions after having a loss. It may be a breakup. It may be a business failure. It may be a bankruptcy. You may have lost a job. Maybe you told everybody that something was going to happen and then it didn't happen. And you were really bold and you were talking smack. Maybe you even talked smack to a bunch of people about it and then it didn't happen. Oh my goodness. It's so easy to quit and hide. And plus, because we live in a technology day and age, you could easily quit, cancel, delete, remove yourself from equations, and it's very tough to show up and face the people after a loss, and that's willpower. Stand in the fire and let the pressure convert you to a diamond. You know, I think about our current president, Donald Trump, and I think about the fact whether you voted for Trump or you didn't vote for Trump, you've got to admit this is the greatest political comeback in the history of politics, in the history of most comebacks. And we all love underdog stories and we all love comeback stories, and we like it in sports and we like it in our personal life. But think about politically. You went from a 4-year turnaround where we went from an insurrection to an inauguration. We went from being attacked to being vilified to being, you can't even talk about it. There was a period of time where if you supported our president, Donald Trump, you couldn't even talk about it in the workplace without being harassed or ridiculed or judged. But let me tell you why. Not only did he win, but he won big time, because he stood in the fire and he took the shots, and he showed that he had the willpower to be the commander-in-chief and the leader of the free world, the president of the United States. Again, whether you like that part or you don't like that part, he showed that he was worthy of the job, because instead of faltering or laying down, or even when he was shot at or different things that took place, he stood in the fire. He went to the interview. He showed up on the podium. He took the questions. He went to court. He sat through all the different things that people needed to sat through. And that's why he's called the greatest political comeback of all time. And so we say that diamonds are created by an immense amount of pressure. And nature leaves clues, and that's one of the clues. Now, it's easier said than done. I don't want to take the pressure of the earth and become a diamond, but I am willing to take some of the pressures of the world to become a metaphoric diamond in my world, and it's not easy to do. And I want you to know it takes a lot of prayer, it takes a lot of affirmations, it takes a lot of positive people around you. You have to seal your mind against all negativity. It's very difficult because there's negativity everywhere that we look, but you've got to focus on the books that you're reading. You've got to focus on the people that you're listening to and that you're allowing in your ear. Whoever you're watching or you're scrolling, be very careful what you read and what you put into your mind, because the devil uses the people that are close to you. The devil uses circumstances when you're weak to put something into your mind to make you feel even weaker so that you do not continue. The devil's great at confusion, and you have to be able to understand that. You're not going to be able to beat the devil one-on-one, but you can be aware of the tricks that the devil plays, and you have to make sure to watch what you put your mind around. And I encourage you to find groups and mentors and workout partners and accountability partners and people that could help you get to the next level so that you could develop this willpower. One of the books that I recommend on that note is, I appreciate the Matt and Jessica Coulter. They got me this book right here on my 30th birthday. I'll never forget it. It's by Robert Needham, and it's Team Secrets of the Navy SEALs. And it talks about working together and developing willpower that the great Navy SEALs have. I have never served in the military, and I have so much respect for all the members of our armed forces, past and present. Thank you so much if you're one of them. And this is a book that talks about it from the Navy SEAL perspective. I strongly encourage it. And as we wrap up here today, think about staying power. Think about long-term versus short-term. One of the ways that you could develop better willpower is, instead of measuring yourself on a daily or weekly basis, you do need to have daily metrics. You do need to have monthly and quarterly metrics. But start thinking about, what's the plan long range? We typically tell our new people 3 numbers. We say 2, 5, and 10. It takes 2 years when you get started into anything to go through the negative parts of all of it. You're going to have some successful days in the first 2 years, but many of the times you're going to have some success and then you're going to have failures. And you're going to have success and you're going to have failures. In fact, after 2 years of starting most things, you'll probably feel like, what the heck am I doing? I got nowhere. It's very common when you embark in any endeavor that the first 2 years, it feels like if the next 20 years are going to be like this, I don't think I could make it. But that's the trick to success. You're closer than you think. Those first 2 years are going to be tough. It's going to take you about 5 years to become really a master at human nature or to be able to deal with different people. Now, if you already have experience dealing with people, you could shortcut some of these timelines. But if you are just getting in raw and you don't really have any skill sets, it's going to take you about 5 years to become great at dealing with people, to engage them in your ideas so that you can go build something great and be successful. And the last number is 10. It's going to take you 10 years to build a great business. And some would say that maybe even longer. That's not to say that you can't be making money along the way. It's not to say that you're not going to be successful earlier than 10 years. But if you think long term, 7 to 10 years out at least for the long term, you could equip yourself to be successful and not let the short term demons mess with your long term success. Hopefully you choose willpower and skill power, but definitely focus on building that willpower. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. If you want to share this video with others, please do so. Like it and then let us know with a comment what you need from us and what we could do to better serve you.